The vibration of my phone cuts through the chaos of the ER like a scalpel. 3 trauma cases in the last hour, and now the device buzzes against my hip with an urgency that makes my stomach clench. No one calls during my shift unless something is wrong. I duck into the supply closet, tearing off my blood-spattered gloves. The caller ID shows Mia's name, and my heart pounds against my ribs. "Honey, what's wrong?" Her voice comes through, choked with sobs. "Mom, my key doesn't work anymore." "What? Do you mean it doesn't work?" I press the phone closer to my ear, straining to hear her over the hospital announcements. I put it in and it won't turn. Mia's words tumble out between ragged breaths. I'm outside and it's raining really hard and Whiskers won't stop crying in his carrier. I close my eyes, trying to picture the scene. My 12-year-old daughter standing on our porch, her backpack soaked, clutching the cat carrier while rain pours down around her. "Where's Grandma or Sophia?" Nobody's answering the door. I can see lights on inside, but nobody comes when I knock. Cold dread washes through me. "I'll be right there, honey. Go to the side porch where there's more cover. I'm leaving now." I burst out of the supply closet, nearly colliding with Dr. Ramirez. The ER is a battlefield of stretchers and monitors and the constant beeping of vital signs. "Elena, we need you in Bay 3. The GSW from the pileup needs." My daughter's locked out of the house. The words taste like panic on my tongue. I have to go. He blinks at me. We're swamped. Can someone else get her? There is no one else. The truth of those words hits me with startling clarity. There never has been. I push past him toward the nurses' station where Supervisor Hayes is updating charts. Her eyes narrow as I approach. "Linda, I need to leave. Family emergency." She sighs heavily. "Elena, we're short 3 nurses already. Can it wait until my father just died, Linda?" The words land between us with the weight of the earth. "Go then." The rain is coming down in sheets by the time I pull into our driveway. Through the windshield wipers, I can make out Mia's small figure huddled under the side porch overhang. Her hair is plastered to her head, uniform soaked through. The cat carrier at her feet emits miserable yowls. I leave the car running and sprint through the downpour, water soaking through my scrubs in seconds. "I'm here, baby. I'm here." Mia collapses against me, her body shaking. "Why doesn't my key work?" "I don't know, honey." I stroke her wet hair, my mind racing. "Let me try mine." We move to the front door, and I notice the curtains shift slightly in the living room window. Someone's home. My key slides in, but won't turn, just as Mia said. I pound on the door. "Hello, Beatrice." "Sophia, open up." The door swings open and I find myself face to face with my mother. Beatrice stands in the entryway, wine glass in hand, her silver hair perfectly coiffed. Behind her, my half-sister Sophia leans against the wall, swirling her own glass of red wine. "Well?" Beatrice takes a slow sip, her eyes traveling over our drenched figures. "You got here faster than I expected." "What's going on?" I ask, trying to usher Mia inside. "Why aren't our keys working?" Beatrice blocks the doorway with surprising firmness for a 65-year-old woman. "We've decided you and Mia don't live here anymore." The words don't make sense at first, like they're in a language I don't speak. "What are you talking about? This is our home." "Not anymore." Sophia steps forward, smirking. She points toward the street. "Your things are on the curb. What's left of them anyway? The rain's been pretty brutal today." I follow her gesture and see cardboard boxes disintegrating in the downpour. clothes and books spilling onto the sodden lawn. My medical textbooks, Mia's school projects, our lives dissolving in the rain. Whiskers lets out another pitiful meow from his carrier. His cries cutting through the sound of rainfall. Something cold and hard settles in my chest. I look at Beatrice, the woman who gave birth to me, who I moved back home to help when Dad got sick, and see nothing familiar in her eyes. Understood? My voice comes out quiet, but steady. Sophia's eyebrows rise like she's disappointed by my lack of hysterics. 2 years ago, I'd given up my downtown apartment, paused a promotion track at the hospital to move back and care for my terminally ill father. Dr. Thomas Vargas had been respected by everyone except apparently his own wife. I'd fallen into the familiar pattern, stepping in when others stepped back, working 14-hour hospital shifts, then coming home to manage medications, appointments, and the household while Beatrice played mahjong, and Sophia visited only when it was convenient. Dad's words echo in my head. You've always been the strong one, Elena. I'd made an unspoken promise to hold our family together after his death. I just hadn't expected to be fighting for survival quite so literally. Come on, Mia, I say softly, turning away from the door. Let's get our things. We walk back into the rain toward the soggy boxes on the curb. Mia's shoulders are shaking, but she doesn't cry. She's her mother's daughter. I pop the trunk of my Honda CR-V and start gathering what I can salvage. Books with warped pages. Photo albums where colors bleed together like watercolors. Mia's science fair ribbon, the ink running down the fabric. Beatrice steps onto the porch watching us. Your father spoiled you, she calls out. This was always my house. I notice the neighbors' faces in windows across the street, watching the spectacle. Mrs. Larson, with her hand over her mouth, the Millers whispering to each other behind their curtains. I walk back to the door one last time, rain streaming down my face. We'll be at the Residence Inn on 5th, I say calmly. Forward our mail. Mia tugs at my soaked scrub top. But Grandpa's books are still inside, she whispers, her voice breaking for the first time. I squeeze her hand and look directly into Beatrice's eyes. Trust me, honey. This isn't over. Something flickers across my mother's face, surprised perhaps at not finding the doormat she's used to walking over. Behind her, Sophia refills her wine glass, but her hand isn't quite steady. As we drive away, I catch a glimpse of Beatrice in the rearview mirror, still standing on the porch. For a moment, I see what's always been there. Not maternal love, but resentment. Resentment of the bond I shared with my father, a bond she never had. The raindrops on the roof of the car. Beside me, Mia cradles Whisker's carrier. Ahead of us, uncertainty. But for the first time in 2 years, I feel something unexpected unfurling in my chest. It feels strangely like freedom. The Residence Inn room looks like a hurricane aftermath the next day. Soggy cardboard boxes form islands across the beige carpet. Mia's school uniform drapes over the shower rod, still dripping. Whiskers huddles. Beneath the desk, his gray fur matted and damp, refusing to come out. I've laid out every salvaged possession like artifacts at an archaeological dig, cataloging what survived the rain and what didn't. My nursing textbooks with warped pages. Mia's science project notes bleeding into illegibility. A family photo, where my father's face has blurred into a watercolor ghost. David Lawson's office. A crisp voice answers on the 4th ring. This is Elena Vargas, I say, pressing the phone against my ear. I need to speak with David immediately. It's about my father's estate. I'm sorry, Miss Vargas, but Mr. Lawson is in court today, and tell him it's Thomas Vargas's daughter, and that Beatrice has locked us out of the house." Silence hangs on the line before the receptionist says, "Hold, please." David's voice comes through moments later, breathless. "Elena, what's happening?" I explain the situation in the clinical detached way I report patient conditions, locked doors, changed locks, possessions in the rain, facts without emotion. "That's impossible," David interrupts. "Elena, your father transferred the house to you and me as trust 6 months ago. The room seems to tilt sideways. What? Thomas put the house in a trust for you and Mia. Beatrice has no legal right to be there, let alone lock you out." I sink onto the edge of the bed, legs suddenly unable to support me. Why wouldn't he tell me? There's a letter with the documents. He asked me not to mention it until it became necessary. Mia emerges from the bathroom, her hair wrapped in a hotel towel. She watches me with eyes too old for her 12 years. "I'm coming to your office," I tell David. Now, an hour later, I'm staring at legal documents spread across David's mahogany desk. Property transfer forms, trust agreements, all signed, notarized, and filed with the county. "Your father was very thorough," David says, sliding a sealed envelope toward me. "He wanted you to have this if something like this happened." The envelope bears my name in my father's distinctive doctor's scrawl. I break the seal and unfold a single page. "My dearest Elena, if you're reading this, then Beatrice has done exactly what I feared she might. The house is yours and Mia's now. It always was in my heart. Beatrice has never appreciated what she has. Not the home, not you, and certainly not me. I've watched her resentment grow over the years, especially toward you. You returned home when I needed you most, sacrificing everything. You've always been the one who carries others, even when your own shoulders are breaking. Take care of our girl and the home will take care of you both. Oh, my love. Dad." A single tear lands on the signature, blurring the ink like rain on cardboard. "Your father knew this might happen," David says quietly. "We have everything we need for an emergency injunction. Beatrice and Sophia are there illegally." My phone buzzes with a text from Susan Green, our neighbor across the street. "They're rearranging furniture and painting your bedroom. Sophia's SUV has been going back and forth all day with more things. Sophia's moved in completely," I tell David, showing him the text within 24 hours of locking us out. David's mouth tightens. "This was planned well in advance. I need to understand what we're up against. I say the nurse in me needing a full assessment before treatment. What can they do? Beatrice is your mother. She'll use that, claim you abandoned your father, that you're an unfit mother to Mia." David hesitates. "Sophia called me this morning. Actually said she's concerned about your mental health after your father's death. That you've been erratic." "Erratic?" I repeat, heat rising in my chest. "She mentioned Sophia's husband Mark already has his eye on converting your father's study for the twins." Another text buzzes through from Susan. The boys are jumping on Mia's bed. I can see them through the window. Something shifts inside me. I stand and walk to the window overlooking downtown Austin. My hospital ID badge hangs from my neck. The laminated photo showing a woman in scrubs ready to save lives. I catch my reflection in the glass, eyes hard as river stones. Jawline set. "I save strangers every day," I whisper. It's time I saved us. Behind me, Mia looks up from the box she's sorting. She watches me with cautious hope, like someone observing the first sprout pushing through scorched earth. "This isn't about revenge," I tell David, turning back to the desk. "It's about justice. I make 3 decisions in rapid succession, the way I triage patients in a mass casualty. I'm calling in sick for the next 3 days. I need to build our case. David nods, already pulling out forms. I'll file for emergency possession. Your father knew this might happen, Elena. He left everything prepared. Back at the hotel, I find Dr. Emily Carter waiting in the lobby with 2 suitcases. She says simply, clean scrubs, clothes for both of you, and real shampoo instead of those tiny hotel bottles. I haven't cried since finding my father's body 2 weeks ago. But Emily's kindness nearly breaks me. Mia's teacher, Miss Harper, arrives an hour later with schoolwork and a quiet strength that reminds me of my father. Mia is one of our strongest students. She tells me privately, and I've documented everything she said about the situation for your records. By evening, the hotel room has transformed from disaster zone to command center. David has arranged a meeting with the bank manager who confirms the trust details and offers a temporary credit line against the home's equity. Your father's foresight was remarkable. The manager tells me the trust is ironclad. The phone rings again, a number I don't recognize. Elena, it's Vivian, my mother's younger sister, whom I haven't spoken to in years. Vivian, I say carefully, I know what Beatrice has done. Her voice is tight with anger. She's been planning this since Thomas's diagnosis. She told me at Christmas she was going to reclaim her life once he was gone. Why are you telling me this? Because what she's doing is wrong, Vivian says simply. And because Sophia's already listed some of your father's medical equipment on Facebook Marketplace, I have screenshots. By midnight, the emergency court filing is submitted. My savings account is nearly depleted from the legal retainer. But for the first time in days, I feel something close to hope. Mia sits on the edge of the hotel bed, stroking Whiskers, who has finally emerged from under the desk. I miss Luna, she says quietly. Her second cat still trapped in the house. We'll get her back, I promise. And Grandpa's books. Everything, Mia, I promise. She studies my face with that penetrating gaze she inherited from my father. Mom, yes. The hardest person to stand up to is your mother. She repeats the line from a book we read together last summer. But the words carry the weight of ancient wisdom. Now I sit beside her, drawing her close. Yes, but not as hard as letting her hurt you. My phone lights up with a text from David. The law is unquestionably on your side. Outside, rain taps against the window gentler than before. Not washing things away this time, but cleaning them, making them new. Beatrice's Facebook post appeared on my phone at 3:17 a.m. a week later. I'd been awake anyway, staring at the hotel ailing, listening to Mia's gentle breathing from the next bed. Please pray for our family during this difficult time. My mother had written, after Thomas's passing, Elena has chosen to abandon the family home where she was raised. Some grief manifests as rebellion, even in adults. Your support means everything. 27 sympathetic comments already. Hearts and prayer hands from church members who'd known me since childhood. I set the phone down without replying. Documentation, not reaction. That's what David had emphasized yesterday. Mom! Mia's voice came from the darkness. You okay? Just checking messages. Honey, go back to sleep. I can't. Mrs. Peterson sent me a weird text. Sophia told her mom I might not be at school because of your mental health issues. The words hit like ice water. Sophia had started spinning stories at Mia's school. By morning, the wolves were circling. Aunt Catherine called while I was in the shower. Uncle Robert while we ate breakfast. Cousin Jennifer during our drive to David's office. All of them concerned about my erratic behavior since Dad's death. They're creating a narrative, David said, spreading documents across his desk. Beatrice is refusing certified letters. 3 attempts already. I nodded, flipping open my notebook. Sophia's husband, Mark, followed me into the hospital parking garage last night. Said I was making things harder than they need to be. David's eyebrows shot up. Did anyone witness this? Security cameras would have. I've already requested the footage. A smile touched the corner of David's mouth. "You're getting good at this." The wall calendar behind him showed today's date circled in red. 1 week since the lockout. 1 week since everything changed. My nurses are documenting every minute I spent at the hospital while caring for Dad, I said, tapping my pen against the notebook. Dr. Nichols is preparing a statement about Dad's mental competency when he made the trust changes. The sheriff's office confirmed they'll enforce any court order we receive, David added, and I spoke with hospital administration this morning. They're offering their full support. Something unfamiliar flickered in my chest. Not the panic of that first night. Not the stunned disbelief of learning Dad had transferred the house to me. Something steadier, calmer. "I need my daughter's birth certificate," I said. "And Dad's medical files? They're in the filing cabinet in his study?" David's pen paused mid-note. "We can request duplicates through. I want the originals today." 40 minutes later, I parked 3 houses down from what was legally my home. The cruiser I'd arranged sat quietly at the corner, Officer Torres giving me a subtle nod. The walkway to the front door felt both familiar and foreign. 7 days ago, I'd stood here soaked to the skin, watching my life unravel. Today, my footsteps sounded different on the concrete. Beatrice answered on the third knock, her face freezing in mid-smile as she registered who stood before her. "You're not welcome here," she said, hand gripping the door edge. I pressed record on my phone, holding it visibly. "I'm legally requesting my daughter's birth certificate and my father's medical records." Sophia appeared behind Beatrice, her face flushing. "We'll call the police if you don't leave. I've already notified them I'd be here." I nodded toward Officer Torres, who'd stepped out of his cruiser. "This is a documented request for my legal property." Beatrice's eyes welled with tears, a familiar tactic that had worked on me countless times before. "After everything I've done for you," when the tears didn't move me, something shifted in her expression. The sadness hardened into something sharper, more dangerous. "You think you can take what's mine?" Her voice cut like glass. "Your father never appreciated me either." Mrs. Daniels watered her flower beds across the street, pretending not to listen. Mr. Wilson slowed his walk, dog pausing conveniently near our driveway. "The filing cabinet in Dad's study," I repeated. "I'll wait here while you bring the documents." 10 minutes later, I walked back to my car with a manila envelope. Inside was the original birth certificate and a folder containing Dad's medical history. Small victories, necessary ones. The next morning, Dr. Carter met me in the hospital cafeteria before my shift. "I've completed my statement about your father's care," she said, sliding a sealed envelope across the table. 2 years of watching you run yourself ragged, caring for him while working full-time. No jury would question your dedication. Miss Harper, Mia's teacher, called that afternoon. "I've documented Mia's relationship with her grandfather. She relayed how he attended every school function when you were working, how she read to him daily during his illness." By evening, David had filed an emergency possession order with 17 signed affidavits. "Vivian called," he said when I arrived at his office. "Beatrice has been photographing family heirlooms for an estate sale website." I felt my jaw tighten. "Dad's collection and your grandmother's silver. The antique furniture from the library." The hospital chaplain, Father Morgan, had left a message on my phone. He provided a character witness statement about my visits with Dad, the prayers we'd shared, the family Bible I'd brought to his bedside. People were choosing sides, not the sides Beatrice had anticipated. Thursday brought the shift I'd been waiting for. The judge reviewed our case and expedited the hearing date. "I want to deliver this personally," David said, holding up the notice of eviction. His eyes gleamed with something between mischief and justice. I sat in my car across the street, watching as David approached the front door in his crisp suit. Beatrice answered, accepting the certified letter with obvious reluctance. Through the windshield, I watched her face as she read the opening lines. The letter trembled in her hands when she reached the declaration. Property owner Elena Vargas. Sophia appeared in the doorway, phone pressed to her ear, lips moving rapidly as she called their attorney. Beatrice didn't move, the paper still clutched in her hands as David walked back to his car. For the first time since this began, I saw something besides manipulation in my mother's expression. Understanding the realization that I wouldn't back down. That evening, David spread our documentation across his conference table like a general mapping a battlefield. Court affidavits from 3 of Dad's doctors confirming his mental competency. Trust documents with the ownership transfer timeline highlighted. The photographs I'd taken of our belongings on the curb, rainwater seeping through cardboard, Mia shivering under the porch light. The calendar is particularly powerful, David said, pointing to the color-coded schedule I'd maintained. Green for Dad's appointments, blue for medication changes, red for emergency room visits. 2 years of caretaking condensed into 12 meticulous pages. And these, he added, tapping the financial records, showing every mortgage payment I'd made, every utility bill I'd covered while Beatrice spent her widow's pension on mahjong dues and weekend trips to Galveston. The law doesn't care about feelings, David said, gathering the papers into a leather portfolio. It cares about facts. My phone buzzed as I pulled into the hotel parking lot that evening. A text from David. Court date moved up. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Mia sat cross-legged on the hotel bed, whiskers purring in her lap. When I told her, "What happens if we lose Mom?" Her voice sounded so small, nothing like the confident 12-year-old who'd aced her science presentation last month. I sat beside her, running my hand over Whisker's soft fur. "We won't. Your grandfather made sure of that." Later, after Mia fell asleep, I opened the folder I hadn't shown David. Inside was a handwritten letter from Dad to the judge, dated 3 weeks before his death, explaining why he transferred the house to me instead of his wife of 40 years. His elegant doctor's handwriting filled 3 pages with truths Beatrice never wanted exposed. Tomorrow, the final battle. But tonight, for the first time since the rain-soaked lockout, I slept without waking. The courthouse gleams like a fortress in the morning sun as I adjust my blazer. No scrubs today. Today I am not Elena the nurse, but Elena the plaintiff, fighting for what's rightfully mine. Mia stands beside me, her posture straight despite her trembling hand in mine. "Ready?" David Lawson asks, briefcase bulging with our ammunition. I nod. We've prepared for this. Inside, the polished floors reflect our determined faces. Courtroom B smells of furniture polish and nervous sweat. I scan the room and freeze Beatrice and Sophia already seated, heads bent in conspiratorial whispers. My mother looks up, her practiced smile faltering when she sees the calm in my eyes. No hysteria, no begging, just quiet certainty. David rises first, presenting a leather portfolio. "Your Honor, we've prepared a complete timeline documenting Dr. Thomas Vargas's decisions regarding his property." He unfolds a chart, dates, signatures, witness statements, irrefutable evidence of my father's intentions. We have affidavits from 3 separate physicians confirming Dr. Vargas was of sound mind when he transferred property ownership. David continues, placing documents before the judge, his oncologist, neurologist, and primary care physician of over 2 decades. David pulls out financial records. Next, bank statements demonstrating Mrs. Beatrice Vargas's minimal financial contributions to household expenses, while Miss Elena Vargas covered property taxes and maintenance costs alongside her father. I notice Beatrice's attorney shifting uncomfortably. Sophia's face darkens with every new document David presents. Additionally, David says, tapping his tablet, "We have video deposition from attorney James Wilson, who prepared the original trust documents. The courtroom screen flickers to life. My father's attorney appears gray and dignified. Dr. Vargas was explicit in his wishes. The property was to transfer to his daughter, Elena, and granddaughter Mia's trust upon his death. He had concerns that Mrs. Vargas might attempt to circumvent his intentions. Beatrice's gasp is audible across the room. Our final witness approaches Miss Patricia Hendress, Mia's school counselor, a woman with unshakable professionalism. Mia has exhibited significant distress since being forcibly removed from her home. She testifies nightmares, anxiety, decreased academic performance. The stability of her home environment was critical following her grandfather's death. I squeeze Mia's hand under the table. She's staring straight ahead, chin raised, just like my father's used to be when facing a difficult diagnosis. The judge nods. Let's hear from the respondents. Beatrice's attorney rises. Gordon Shaw. Expensive suit. Artificial smile. Your Honor, this entire situation stems from a tragic misunderstanding. Mrs. Vargas had every intention of allowing her daughter and granddaughter to remain in the house temporarily. Beatrice produces a handkerchief, dabbing at invisible tears. I cared for my husband throughout his illness, she claims, voice quavering perfectly. Throughout our marriage, tending to his every need, Elena was rarely home, always at the hospital. My fingers curl into my palm, nails biting flesh, a lie so blatant it steals my breath. Sophia approaches next, armed with photographs. Here's our family at Christmas, she says, showing images of forced smiles. And here's Mom helping Dad with his medication. One carefully curated moment caught on camera, ignoring the 100 times I'd found his pills untouched when I returned from shifts. Character witnesses from our church file forward people who'd visited for an hour on Sundays. Elena was rarely present for church functions, Mrs. Patterson says, avoiding my eyes. Beatrice was always there, asking for prayers for her husband, praying publicly while neglecting him privately. The lockout was unfortunate, Shaw concludes, but necessary tough love. Elena has become increasingly dependent at her age. Judge Caldwell's expression reveals nothing as she makes notes. For one terrible moment, I see doubt in her eyes. My turn comes. I rise slowly, channeling every ounce of professional composure I've developed in emergency rooms. Your Honor, I moved home 2 years ago specifically to care for my father during his illness. I begin, my voice steady. I coordinated my hospital shifts around his care needs. David presents my work schedules alongside my father's treatment calendars, showing how I'd arranged everything around being home when he needed me most. The courtroom door opens. A familiar figure slips in Beatrice's sister, Vivian, whom I haven't seen since the funeral. Beatrice's face contorts in surprise. Miss Vivian Blackwell has requested to provide testimony, David announces. Vivian walks forward. I visited my brother-in-law weekly during his illness. She states firmly, on numerous occasions, I found him alone while my sister was at social engagements. It was Elena who adjusted his medications, prepared his meals, and ensured his comfort. Beatrice half rises before her attorney pulls her back down. David produces a sealed envelope. Your Honor, Dr. Vargas anticipated potential disputes. He prepared this letter to be presented to the court if necessary. The judge breaks the seal, reading silently. Her eyebrows rise. Mom. Mia's voice breaks the tension. Can I say something? Judge Caldwell softens. Come forward, young lady. Mia walks to the stand, her school uniform impeccable. My grandfather taught me chess in his study every Sunday afternoon, she begins, even when he was really sick. He told me the house would always be there for Mom and me, that he'd made sure of it. He said Grandma didn't appreciate what she had. Tears build in my eyes, but I blink them back. Dignity, not drama. We'll win this fight. I just want to go home. Mia finishes simply. I could launch into details about Beatrice's neglect. Instead, I say, the documented evidence speaks for itself, Your Honor. Beatrice stands abruptly. She manipulated her dying father. She shouts, pointing at me. Thomas wasn't thinking clearly. Mrs. Vargas, control yourself, Judge Caldwell warns. During the recess, David steps into the hallway. Sophia's husband, Mark, follows him. A security camera captures Mark's threatening whisper. You'll regret taking this case. Back in session, Beatrice's attorney challenges the trust documents. His argument backfires when it becomes clear they'd known about the trust for months. Their signatures on file. Mrs. Vargas, these medical records indicate you attended only 3 of your husband's 27 oncology appointments, Judge Caldwell observes. Is that correct? Beatrice fumbles for an explanation. Sophia leans toward her attorney, whispering urgently. I catch fragments. Already spoke with the agent about listing. The judge's head snaps up. What agent would that be, Mrs. Peterson? Sophia blanches, realizing her mistake. A reporter sits in the back row. Beatrice approaches him during the next break. My ungrateful daughter abandoned her father and now wants to steal my home. My colleagues from Austin General file into the courtroom, a silent wall of support. Judge Caldwell closes her folder with finality. I am granting temporary possession of the property to Elena Vargas and Mia Vargas. Effective immediately. Sheriff's Department will escort Mrs. Beatrice Vargas and Mrs. Sophia Peterson from the property by 5 p.m. today. Final hearing is set for 3 weeks from now. Beatrice collapses back in her chair, her performance finally faltering. Outside the courtroom, her attorney approaches David. We should discuss settlement terms. I shake my head. We're past the point of negotiation. In the hallway, Sophia and Mark argue loudly. You said this would be easy, he snaps. Now where are we supposed to live? I lead Mia toward the exit. The sunlight outside feels different. Somehow cleaner, brighter. Is it over? Mia asks, looking up with cautious hope. Almost, I tell her. Keys already in hand. We're going home. The phone rang at 7:15 a.m. I stared at the caller ID, my thumb hovering over the screen. Mother. 3 days before the final hearing. Elena. Beatrice's voice quavered when I answered. I didn't sleep all night thinking about this situation. I said nothing, letting the silence stretch between us. I'm still your mother. Her voice broke. Family should come first. You know that's what your father would want. I stirred my coffee, watching the cream swirl. Dad made his wishes very clear in the trust documents. People are talking, Elena. The whole church is praying for reconciliation. The wobble in her voice hardened. Pastor Williams called yesterday. He reminded me that Christian forgiveness requires reconciliation. My phone buzzed with an incoming text. Uncle Robert, we need to find a compromise before Thursday. This is tearing the family apart. Sophia's boys are devastated, Beatrice continued. They've already moved their things into the upstairs bedrooms. Now they have to pack again. Those rooms never belonged to them. I said quietly. We could share the house, Beatrice pressed. You and Mia take the main bedroom and study. We'll take the guest room and den common areas can be. No. The word fell between us like a stone. You're being cruel, Elena. Her voice sharpened. What happened to the daughter who nursed her father for 2 years? Who put everyone else first? She got locked out in the rain. I ended the call as another text arrived. I set my phone face down on the counter, my hands trembling slightly. Mom. Mia stood in the doorway, whiskers winding around her legs. Was that Grandma again? Yes, honey. I forced a smile. Nothing important. David called an hour later. Beatrice's attorney filed a motion this morning. They're requesting a mental health evaluation, claiming your grief has impaired your judgment. My stomach clenched. Can they do that? It's a delay tactic, David said. But the hospital called me too. Someone filed an anonymous complaint questioning your professional stability. The words struck like physical blows. 2 years of night shifts while managing Dad's care. Never missing a medication schedule documenting every treatment. The school principal left a message. I told him, apparently, Sophia's been telling parents that Mia is not doing well in our temporary situation. I glanced toward Mia's room where she was quietly reading. David, am I being too harsh? Should I consider some kind of no? David cut in. Remember what your father wrote in his letter to the judge. Beatrice has never appreciated boundaries, which is why I've drawn this one so clearly. Stay the course, Elena. Wednesday morning, the day before the final hearing, my phone rang as I was preparing Mia's lunch. Miss Vargas, this is Janet from the clerk's office. We can't locate your documentation folder for tomorrow's hearing. Cold dread washed through me. What? All our evidence was submitted last week. It's not showing in the system. We need these documents by noon, or the judge may grant another continuance. I called David immediately. His assistant answered, He's in court until 11:00. What's happening? I explained the situation as I raced to the hotel desk for the backup flash drive. I saved copies of everything, but we'll need to reprint all the affidavits and get them notarized again. I'll meet you at the office in 20 minutes, she promised. I turned to find Mia watching me, backpack in hand. You're going to be late for school. Grandpa's tablet, she said suddenly. The blue one? He backed up all his important papers to the cloud. The password is your birthday. 3 hours of frantic work. David requested a delay when he finished his other case. The judge granted us exactly 90 minutes. We made it by 11 minutes, David said, collapsing into a chair as the clerk stamped our reconstituted evidence folder. Someone deliberately misplaced our files. Just one more day, I whispered. Thursday morning dawned clear and cool. I stood by the mailbox at 9:27 a.m., watching the sheriff's department vehicles pull into the driveway. 2 deputies in crisp uniforms approached the front door, while another positioned himself near the garage. David stood beside me, legal briefcase in hand. Are you ready for this? I nodded, unable to speak. In the car, Mia sat clutching a framed photo of my father, her face solemn. The lead deputy knocked firmly. Sheriff's Department, open the door, please. Sophia answered, her face flushed. What's the meaning of this? The deputy held up an official document. I have a writ of possession to execute. Are you Beatrice Vargas? I'll get my mother, Sophia said, her voice tight. Beatrice appeared moments later, hair perfectly styled despite the early hour. I need to see that order. I'm not letting strangers into my home. Ma'am, I'm required by law to read this aloud. Then you'll have 20 minutes to collect essential personal belongings under supervision. As the deputy read the court order, Beatrice's eyes found mine across the lawn. The hatred in them was palpable. You have 20 minutes, the deputy concluded. We'll accompany you to ensure only personal belongings are removed. I remained by the mailbox as deputies entered with Beatrice and Sophia. David activated the recording feature on his phone, documenting the entire process. Inside, I heard Beatrice's voice rising in protest. Those are family heirlooms. They belong to my husband's mother. Ma'am, we have an inventory list provided by the court. Those items are specifically listed as property of the trust. I closed my eyes, remembering the meticulous room-by-room inventory I'd created before moving back. Every photograph, every book, every piece of silver documented with my father's signature. A deputy emerged carrying a cat carrier. Found this little guy hiding under a bed. Seems a bit malnourished. Whisker's plaintive meow made my throat tighten. I took the carrier to Mia, who opened the door immediately, tears streaming down her face. He's so skinny, Mom, she whispered, fingers gently stroking his fur through the grate. The minutes ticked by. Deputies carried out boxes of clothing and personal items, checking each against the inventory. I heard Beatrice's voice rising again. Then Sophia's husband Mark's deeper tones joining the argument. "Sir, step back now," came a deputy's firm command. "Threatening language will not be tolerated." 17 minutes after entering, Beatrice emerged on the porch, clutching her purse. Sophia followed with a small suitcase. "You'll regret this," Beatrice said, her voice carrying across the lawn. "When you need family most, remember this moment." I met her gaze steadily. "You already taught me how regret feels." Standing in the rain with my daughter, the lead deputy approached with a clipboard. "Miss Vargas, we've completed the formal transfer of possession. There are several items missing from the inventory. We've documented everything for your attorney." He handed me a ring of keys. House keys, garage keys, the physical symbols of what had always been rightfully mine. "Your father's medical equipment was improperly stored in the basement," the deputy added quietly. "Some damage appears deliberate. We photographed everything." Beatrice walked stiffly to her car without looking back. Sophia paused at the bottom of the driveway, something like recognition flickering across her face before she turned away. Mark glared at me from their SUV until a deputy pointedly approached his window. 2 vehicles pulled away in opposite directions. Neighbors who had gathered on porches and behind curtains slowly dispersed. Witnesses to justice rather than drama. My phone buzzed with incoming messages. "Uncle Robert, we had no idea things were this bad. Call if you need anything. The security system is reset with your code," David said, tucking his phone away. "I filed for a restraining order as a precaution." Mia climbed out of the car, still holding her grandfather's photograph. She approached the porch steps slowly, as if unsure whether they might disappear beneath her feet. I stood in the doorway, keys in hand. Victory should have felt triumphant, but there was only a somber stillness, a household reclaimed, a boundary restored. As David drove away, I noticed a white envelope in the mailbox, my mother's handwriting instantly recognizable. I slipped it into my pocket, unopened. Some letters could wait for another day. The rain falls differently now, 6 months later. I stand at the kitchen window watching droplets track down the glass, remembering that night when Mia and I stood drenched on the porch, locked out of our own lives. Dad's study remains untouched, a shrine of sorts. His medical journals line the shelves. His reading glasses rest on the desk. The only change is the small wooden plaque Mia made. Dr. Thomas Vargas Memorial Reading Room. Sometimes I sit in his chair, breathe in what's left of him, and read his journals. Not because I must, but because I want to. Mia's garden flourishes in the backyard despite the autumn chill. The Peace Project, she calls it. Rows of hardy mums and late-season vegetables, each plant tagged with careful handwriting. She tends it daily with a dedication that reminds me of her grandfather. The promotion letter from Austin Memorial sits framed on my desk. Nursing Supervisor Emergency Services. Dr. Carter insisted I accept it. "Your father would be proud," she'd said, squeezing my hand. "And you've earned it." I'd cried then. The first tears I'd allowed myself since the eviction. The new security system hums quietly in the background. 6 cameras, motion sensors, reinforced locks. Not from fear, but from a promise to never again be vulnerable. "Mom." Mia's voice floats from the front porch. "Come watch the rain with me." I pour 2 mugs of chamomile tea and join her. We sit in matching rocking chairs, just as we did on countless evenings with Dad before his illness took him. The rain falls steadily, turning our yard into a glistening canvas. "It's raining just like that day," Mia says softly, fingers wrapped around her mug. She's grown taller these past months, her face losing some of its childish roundness. The trauma aged her, but the healing has given her a quiet strength. Yes, I say, watching water sheet off the new porch roof. Same weather, different feeling. Mia rocks gently, her eyes tracking the rainfall. This is our home now, she says. Not a question, but a statement of hard-won truth. I reach across the space between us, squeezing her hand. It always was. The rain that once symbolized our rejection now sounds like a lullaby. Nature's percussion accompanying our evening ritual. Later, I sit at my desk, journal open before me. Therapy homework technically, but it's become more than that. Tonight's prompt stares up at me. How has your definition of strength changed? My pen hovers, then begins to move. Strength isn't just endurance. For so long, I thought being strong meant carrying everyone's burdens, never complaining, always saying yes. I confused sacrifice with love. But real strength knows when to draw lines, when to say no, when to protect what matters most. The hospital committee invitation sits unanswered beside my journal. 6 months ago, I would have accepted immediately, stretching myself thinner in the name of dedication. Now I see the request differently. Time with Mia is not negotiable. Some boundaries aren't betrayal, they're preservation. I glance at the framed quote on my wall. Dad's handwriting is familiar as my own. Strength isn't carrying everything. It's knowing what to put down. Whiskers, now healthy and plump, jumps onto the desk and settles on my journal. His purr vibrates against my hand. Another small victory. The cat who once cowered during those hotel weeks now sprawls with confident abandon. Last night, Mia slept through until morning. No nightmares, no anxious midnight calls. The first time since the lockout, I'd stood in her doorway at dawn, watching her peaceful breathing, and felt something tight inside me finally release. Dad's medical equipment, the hospital bed, the oxygen concentrator, has found new purpose. The donation to Austin Community Clinic came with a single condition. A plaque honoring Dr. Thomas Vargas. Service transformed into legacy. Friday movie nights have become sacred ritual. Just Mia and me on the sofa. Bowls of popcorn balanced on our laps. Whiskers wedged between us. The family we've chosen, small but mighty. At the hospital, Jessica, a young nurse with haunted eyes, sought me out last week. My mother keeps taking my paycheck, she'd whispered. Says I owe her for raising me. I'd recognize the shame in her voice, the confusion of obligation twisted into exploitation. Let me share something I learned the hard way, I'd told her, pulling out the caregiver rights guide I'd created. 20 pages of resources, legal protections, and boundary scripts. The project that grew from our pain, now helping others navigate their own. Mia's school presentation, What Makes a Home, won first place last month. Her teacher called it surprisingly mature. On the final slide, Mia had written, "A home isn't just walls and a roof. It's a place where you're safe to be yourself." The spare bedroom that once collected dust now hosts Emily, a traveling nurse whose apartment flooded last week. The same colleague who brought us clothes during those first desperate hotel nights. Circles completing themselves. My phone chimes with a notification. A Facebook post from Sophia showing her and Beatrice arguing over furniture at an estate sale. The comment section brims with their public drama. I quietly block both accounts. Vivian's message arrived yesterday, tentative, hopeful. Maybe it's time for healing. She'd written, "Family should find its way back together." My response took hours to craft. Vivian. I value your place in our lives, but reconciliation requires acknowledgement and change. Neither has happened. My door remains open to you, but my boundaries with Beatrice and Sophia are not negotiable. The unopened letter from Beatrice sat in my desk drawer for months. I finally read it last night. 5 pages of justifications, selective memories, and subtle blame. No apology. I filed it away without response, choosing peace over the exhaustion of engagement. The rain intensifies as evening deepens. Mia brings her watercolors to the porch, capturing the glistening yard in blues and purples. I watch her work, struck by how her fingers move with certainty across the paper. Wind stirs the chimes hanging from the eave, the ones Mia and I made from Dad's medical alert tags. They catch the light from the porch lamp, sending gentle music into the damp air. Some storms wash things away, I say, watching raindrops catch in Mia's hair. Others help things grow. Mia looks up, brush poised mid-stroke. I like this storm better. The security light flickers on as dusk settles, illuminating the handmade sign at the end of our driveway. Vargas Residence. Not a declaration of ownership, but of presence, of persistence. Have you ever had to choose between family peace and your well-being?